Hello, I'm Ben with LawnSense, and today I'm going to show you how to program your E-Series RainBird controller. Okay, and the reason we call this the RainBird E-Series is because the E is the series, and then the number corresponds to how many stations your controller accepts. So you can have anything from an E4 to an E9. So this specific one is a 6-station model, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is check our date and time. So we're going to come over here. Now, the plus and minus will change the values to whatever you're looking for. And this return button right here is also known as an enter. So when we've set this first value, we hit enter. It's going to take us to the next value, which is the month, and then the next value, which is the day. So once we've set that, when we hit enter again, it's going to take us to the hours. So plus and minus change the value. And you can watch as we pass the 12, the AM and PM is going to change with that as well. So you will have to go around the clock cycle to get the AM and PM to change depending on when you're setting it. Once you have that, hit enter, takes us to the minute value. And just like any of these controllers, anytime you change a value, there's no button you have to push to automatically save it. Once you change a value, it automatically saves it as you're changing it. So we've done there. So on this specific one, this one's pretty advanced when it comes to this. This is what's called a day cycle. So what this controller can do is it can run, so we're going to hit enter, or we're going to hit the plus to change through. So this one can do evens, it can do odds, and it can do odds with months that have 31 days. So, and then it can also do different days in the week cycle. So this number is going to tell you how many days in the week that it's going to run if you select. So to make this easy, we're going to set this to 7, and then we're going to switch over to water days. So right now, you can see that we have all 7. So that's Sunday all the way through Saturday. So any one of these numbers, you'll see that there's a square around it. The square is going to correspond with the day that it's going to run. So plus and minus will change it. So once we've done that, we'll hit enter. It'll take us to the next. So if we don't want to run this day, we'll hit enter again. It'll take us to the next one, and we can plus or minus and select each one that we want to run. So now we're going to move over to our program start time. This is going to determine what time in the day that our schedule is going to run. So you can see that these lines indicate nothing. So we're going to hit plus and minus, and this is going to change our value across. Now, what you need to remember here is that when I cross this 12 a.m. back to 11:59 p.m., that's where the off is. So depending on where your number is set, you will have to cycle all the way back to this clock count to get it to go off. So we'll set the value at what we want. Once we have that set, we'll hit enter. It's going to take us to the second start time. So this is going to determine how many times a day you want it to run. So if you just want one, then all you need to do after you've set your first one is to hit enter and make sure the rest of these are on off. This specific controller will run 4 times in a day. So if we wanted to run another schedule, we can just hit plus or minus on one, and that'll change it to where we can actually get it to start another time during that day. So now that we've got that set, we'll move on to station runtime right here. And this is going to determine how many minutes each one of our stations run. So plus or minus will change the values. Enter will skip to the next values. So we'll set all our stations up, and that's done. So now we're going to move on to what this controller has as a feature. This is water budget. So what this is, you'll see the percentage sign. It's set at 100%. So if you remember, I just set the station run times at 2 minutes. If I take this percentage down to 50%, all that's going to do is take a minute away. So it's a percentage of the minutes. So if I turn it down to 50%, it just took our 2 minutes and turned it into 1 minute. Same thing. If we move it up and down, if we go up to 200%, it just took it up to 4 minutes. This is where you'll make your seasonal adjustments as best you can until you get to the point where you need to turn the controller off for the season. So now we're going to move on to manual stations. This is where if you wanted to run a station specifically by itself for any reason, you would select how many minutes you want it to run. You would hit enter. When you notice it skip, it's running the station. And the way we can verify this, if we come all the way back up to the run position, you'll see that it's running our station 1 for 2 minutes. Once it finishes that run, it'll shut down and it'll go back to its regular programming. If you want to stop the manual runs faster, You'll flip it to the off position, wait approximately 3 to 5 seconds, and then you can come back to doing what you were doing. So that's going to be how you run through your manual stations. Enter will skip the values to where you need it to be. This is a manual cycle. So if I hit enter on this, it's going to run our entire cycle that we have programmed one time. This is if you want to water the entire yard one time. Once it finishes its run, we'll flip it to the run and verify that it's running. Once it finishes this manual run, it will turn off and it will go back to what it's programmed to do on the automatic cycle. So we'll wait 3 to 5 seconds to make sure it's off. The last thing you need to know about this controller is this test function. So you see that it has a 2. This is a minute run. So, this is a minutes interval. So if I hit enter on this right now, it's going to run every single station for 2 minutes, and then it's going to turn off and go right back to its regular programming. I can add or change this value to whatever I need it to be. And that's pretty much it.